Okay, sorry for the brief delay there. We'll call our work session to order. So roll call, please.
Chairman Smith,
Yes, here.
Mrs. Black, Mr. Connor,
Present with my junior assistant.
Mr. Daugherty,
Here.
Mr. Grun,
Here.
Mrs. Haddon,
Here.
Mrs. Jones,
Present.
Mr. King,
Here.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Here.
Mr. Slater,
Here.
Ms. Thomas,
She's here. I don't know if she can hear us.
online.
She's here.
She's saying she can hear. Unmute yourself.
Superintendent Dr. Robertson,
Here. Okay, we've got several delegations that are going to share tonight. Just as a reminder, if something is not on our agenda, then the way our policy works, you have to have signed up prior to 48 hours before this meeting. So we have maybe a couple that have asked to speak on House Bill 793, which is not on our agenda tonight. So we would ask that person share with us the next time, okay? So with that being said, Ms. Jones?
Okay. We had 3 delegations that signed up prior to today. Lindsay Lynn, Mayb Connor, and then Mr. J. Brown. However, Mr. Brown has contacted us. He is currently not going to be here today. So we'll reach back out to him to see if he wants to speak the next time. And then we have one additional, Tammy Barnes.
Excuse me, I signed up as well.
On this?
Yes, the day before the deadline or, sorry, but I signed, Trista Eisenberg, I signed up.
So for clarity, normally we wouldn't have this conversation right here, so I just want to say that right now. But but for clarity, if you signed up prior to today at 4 o'clock, that goes through our board secretary. I'm speaking to who signed up the last people that I just mentioned are the people that actually signed up physically here today, prior to 4 p.m. So Mr. Brown is not here. Okay. So now I'm going to state the delegation statement. I'll state this at one time and then just call by name, okay? Thank you for your interest in addressing the Hamilton County Board of Education. During your presentation, please address the board as a whole, not individual board members or administrators. Also, please do not present complaints or concerns you have about an individual employee of the school system. If you wish to voice those complaints and concerns, you should contact the central office and ask for a meeting with the superintendent, since the superintendent is responsible for individual employees. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. I will tell you when you have 1 minute left. We're going to start with Lindsay Lynn. You may begin when you're ready.
In the 1940s, Germany told society people with disabilities were a drain on resources and therefore should be eliminated. Society in America in the 1970s didn't believe people with disabilities were worth educating. Only when federal protections were added were people with disabilities able to attend public schools. Here we are in 2025. The state voucher system got approved. However, the amendment that was added to prevent private schools from discriminating against children with disabilities got denied. Denied. Disability Day on the Hill was yesterday with state legislators. The packet I handed to you tells you the stories you will read from parents and teachers about the barriers students with challenges often face as they seek a free and appropriate education in the Tennessee classrooms. Shortages of special education teachers and high turnover, as well as a lack of training and resources, mean that students have difficulty getting the proper support and therapies they need. Schools are struggling to efficiently support students with needs, which can greatly impact the course of these students' lives and often leads to poor outcomes, academic, professional, social, or emotional. Per Trendline's Employment Training Administration Issue 13 from October 2024, people with disabilities may face discrimination and barriers to employment, such as lack of education or training, the need for workplace accommodations, and lack of transportation. There is still work to do to continue closing the employment gap between people with and without disabilities. Does not providing proper support at school give them a better chance to post-secondary education and potentially closing that gap within the workforce? HCS is proposing budget cuts to the ex-ed department that would limit the availability of accommodations and services or make them available only at certain schools. Ex-ed students would then need to be bused to a school they may not be zoned for and therefore no longer stay within their own community. HCS should have seen the budget dwindling. Where was the oversight? HCS now might be the time to let parents let their outside service providers, which is a policy I have been fighting for multiple times up here, to let our outside service providers come in. It is covered by our insurance. It's covered by TennCare. It's covered by Katie Beckett. We offered this solution to you all that would help you with this budget problem. You ignored us, and in my last IEP meeting, it was stated, we don't want outside service providers in because we would be afraid they wouldn't follow HCS policies. HCS, you don't follow your current policies. Look at the issue that happened at Chattanooga Prep. Also, HCDE purchased the old Signet building in 2022 for $24 million. It is not being used as mentioned on why that building was purchased. Overall, my son would have been the first one to be eliminated in Germany in the 1940s. In the 1970s, he wouldn't have been able to attend the public schools because he wasn't worth educating for society, which is why FAPE and IDA exists. We had to remove him from your schools because you wouldn't provide him the support even though we offered it for you at no cost. And now I have to explain to my child every day why he can't go to school with his brother and sister. Imagine if that was your child. How would you feel? And you can't tell me you don't know someone who has autism or some kind of intellectual disability. You can't tell me you don't. I've been up here, my husband has been up here. I even tried to get Gavin to speak to you all to say, when I grow up, these are the things I want to do. Let's continue to find the room in the budget to support these kids because they do want to have a successful future, whether it's post-secondary education or living an independent life. Hamilton County, we need to be progressing, not regressing.
Mayb Connor.
Hello everyone, my name is Mayb Connor. I'm a 6th grade musical theater major at CCA, Center for Creative Arts. I'm here today to discuss the proposed changes to the cell phone policy at our schools. The current policy allows students to bring their phones, watches, or other cellular devices to school. There are countless reasons why a student might need to contact a parent, sibling, friend, or relative. For example, sometimes plans change unexpectedly. Several times, thanks to my watch, I have received a message that transportation plans have changed. Once, my parents weren't able to pick me up, and instead I needed to go home with a friend's parents. Had I not worn my watch that day, I would have missed that important update and would have faced unnecessary confusion. The truth is, having a phone or watch gives me peace of mind. If I ever needed to reach out, I could simply pull my phone from my pocket or glance at my wrist at the appropriate time to use my device. Knowing that I can do this is reassuring to me. While I agree that phones and watches shouldn't be distractions during class, students must have the ability to contact their parents when necessary. There could be changes to plans that students need to be aware of, like if a parent needs to pick them up at a different location. If they can't communicate, it could lead to confusion and potentially safety issues. Moreover, think about emergencies, like a fire at a school. In that situation, having a phone handy to call 911 could make a life-saving difference. Not to mention, if there was a lockdown event, I know my mom and dad would want me to be able to reach them or them me. For my friend and other kids living with type 1 diabetes, a cell phone is a necessity. They might need to check their insulin levels or monitor their blood sugar. Without easy access to this information, they could face serious health risks. In emergencies, a phone becomes their lifeline, not only to reach out for help, but also to access vital health apps and reminders. So, while we often think of phones as tools for communication and entertainment, let's remember that their significance in health management. For children with chronic illnesses, having a phone handy could be the difference between safety and danger. In conclusion, allowing students to bring their phones and devices to school is not only about convenience, it's about safety and ensuring we can stay connected with our families when it matters most. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go any further, I want to apologize to the audience, or to the public. We have a new process when you come to the dais as a delegation. Just like at County Commission and at City Hall, when you have to state your name or what district you live in and your address, we have to do that here now. And I apologize because Mrs. Lynn, I didn't tell you that or Mayb before you started. So, in hindsight, could you just come back up and just say that for me? So it goes on record.
So my name and the district?
Name, district, and your address. You know, like, well, you can do your name and district, Shirley, or name and address. Name and address.
Like
I'm sorry.
Like where I live?
Yeah, you don't, I mean, just Chattanooga, Tennessee. I mean, you don't have
okay.
to. Like, it's several Lee, I'm saying that because there's several Lee Streets in Chattanooga, Tennessee, so I wouldn't know if you
Gotcha.
lived on Lee Street, right?
Okay.
But you need to
so
state your
Lindsay
address.
Lynn, District 7 schools at Appleton. Does that work?
And your street address, like your. It's in the list. Okay, now I'm gonna take one for the team today. I really am, but I'm just trying to go in accordance with what we're required to do. Trust me, I get it because my address, you all know, so I get it.
Okay.
I understand. You have access to it. I understand your concern. I too have family and children as well. I understand. But I'm just trying to follow the process. And if I was to go speak at county commission
Right.
or city council, I would have to do the same thing. So I'm just trying to follow the process, y'all, of what we are being instructed to do. The same as how we have to do roll call and other things. Some things have changed. We all know things are changing in government.
Well,
So it's not personal, I promise you. It's really not.
Can
I'm not
you-
gonna come to your house. I'm not.
County Commission.
Can I have the, Mr. Bennett, can you pull the policy for me, please? Because I think they think I'm really not. I really not. Trust me. I understand. I really do
I know
understand.
when we sign up to speak, you have to say like what you're speaking on and give your address.
Right, but we have to,
Write it out.
okay. Mr. Bennett, can you just, I'm just trying to do what I was instructed to do.
If I, for this evening, since we've already started this process, let's maybe revisit this and maybe start afresh next time. since
Okay,
we
I
have-
just was, I mean, I'm just for record clearing though, I'm just
No,
following what I was
no,
told to
you're
do before
fine.
board meeting, and because it was a new process, when I realized I didn't, I was just trying to. It's nothing
Ms.
being
Jones?
created for the moment, y'all, I
Yep.
promise.
Ms. Jones, you're exactly correct. The policy says that they're to identify who they are and their address. You're exactly correct. My suggestion would be that, since they've already spoken, we
Can
do
you tell them where to find that, please?
Board Policy 1.404, appearances before the board.
All right, that's all. That's okay. Go. That's okay, Ms. Lynn. Go.
I would like to make an amendment to that board policy.
Miss, and help me with this. Trista, is it Eisenberg? Eisenberg. Okay.
My name is Trista. I have 2 kids at Woodwell High School. My son Zach was diagnosed with autism just after his 2nd birthday. He started therapy immediately. He started speech therapy before he was even diagnosed. For years, insurance did not pay for Zach's therapy, so we paid out of pocket. Cheapest year was $12,000, most expensive was $17,000. We lived with family for a year and a half to afford his therapy. I'm telling you this because we always do what is best for him. We believe that he can be a functioning part of society, earning a salary and not living off governmental assistance. Zach learns differently than other kids. He needs one-on-one instruction to learn the skills required to contribute to society. He needs functional skills, reading comprehension, and math. He also needs help learning appropriate social skills and communication. Zach cannot get everything he needs in a classroom with one teacher and one parapro. No matter how great the teacher and the parapro are, it is just an impossible situation with all of those kids in that class at different levels needing different help. There are many things that he can do on his own, and he does go out to general education classes. This helps with his social and communication needs. However, he still needs one-on-one help with the other skills. He needs someone to shape his social skills and encourage communication. Zach's parapros, I cannot say this strongly enough. His parapros provide essential services to him. They love him, and they change his life. I believe that in changing XED in this way will cause a deterioration in Zach's ability to learn. Zach has very few behaviors. He can sit in a gen ed classroom and not cause any issues. However, he won't be getting anything out of it. I feel like these changes are leaving my son in limbo for his last 2 years of high school. Thank you.
Tammy Barnes.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Tammy Barnes, and I am a volunteer with Public Schools Strong, and I'm a mom. My youngest son is a freshman at Saudi Daisy High School. I live in District 1. Thank you all for allowing me to speak here today. I would like to begin by addressing the growing concern of excessive testing in our schools. As you are aware, students today face an overwhelming number of assessments throughout the school year. In addition to 3 benchmark tests, there's a TCAP at the end of the year, as well as regular quizzes, EOCs, and exams. When you add it all up, it's an enormous amount of testing. This is not only financially burdensome, but also incredibly time-consuming, creating stress for both students and educators alike. The problem with this over-testing is that it takes valuable time away from real learning. Students spend hours preparing for these assessments rather than engaging in the deeper, more meaningful educational experiences that foster true academic growth. Teachers are also forced to spend precious instructional time preparing students for these exams instead of focusing on creating creative teaching methods and individualized support. The stress levels among students have increased dramatically, and many feel more like test takers than learners. Additionally, the financial costs of administering these tests, particularly the multiple benchmarks and TCAP, are staggering, and it's important to ask whether these funds could be better allocated towards direct classroom support or enrichment programs. For our students' well-being and the quality of their education, I ask that you seriously consider reducing the number of assessments, limiting them to possibly one mid-year benchmark that would help prepare students for the TCAP. This would not only ease the burden on students and teachers, but it would also ensure that testing becomes a tool for learning rather than an obstacle. Moving on to the budget, I understand that difficult decisions must be made, especially with the current financial constraints. It has come to my attention that exceptional education staff may face cuts, and I strongly urge you to reconsider this. I am a mom of 3 boys who 2 have received exceptional education provisions. Instead of reducing vital support staff, I ask that you evaluate potential cuts in central office. For years, we've seen talented teachers leave the classroom because advancing I'm not just trying to pick on central office. I have a really good reason. For years, we've seen talented teachers leave the classroom because advancing their careers and earning a livable wage often requires them to move into administrative roles. If we paid our teachers a fair wage, they could stay in the classroom where they're most needed. This is especially true for athletic and arts educators who work long hours beyond the classroom. And it's not just about football, which gets the most attention and resources. Many sports like soccer, lacrosse, and wrestling, to name a few, that's not all inclusive, they have regular games or matches multiple times a week. Band directors and theater teachers also spend countless hours rehearsing, preparing, and investing deeply in their students. If we truly value our teachers, we need to compensate them accordingly. When reviewing the budget, the choices we make reflect our values, so I ask you to please keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. It takes us down to presentations. But before we get there, every employee valued, I think, is up first. We just for you guys, for us, we've got several items of discussion here. We may not get through them. We're going to have to end our work session a little bit early because of the Teacher of the Year recognition. So if we don't get through them, then we'll add them on under board matters at our regular. Yeah, no, our work session agenda items. If we don't get through them, okay? Okay, every employee value, is that you, Mr. Zach?
Yes, sir, thank you. Chairman Smith and members of the board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to highlight our work under our commitment to every employee value. We always start off our presentation with our just cause. Of course, you feel familiar with that. All of our children thrive and experience a future without limits. Of course, there's our mission and vision for our district. Like to sit here just for a moment on our beliefs. When we think about every employee valued, I like to highlight the one in the middle there. All students can learn. Of course, our values here, all our decisions should be really made by our values. We want to live true to these values. Today, I really want to highlight excellence, right? In all of our work, when I think about employees, our human resources and talent, we strive to be excellent in our work. So today, it's every employee valued. I love this portrait of a graduate. You've seen this many times, and I just want to emphasize, in order for us to achieve this, in order for us to have students that walk across the stage when they graduate, it takes having great teachers and great leaders and great staff members in our schools, not just some schools, but all of our schools. So we have 3 objectives for every employee value. I want to highlight those again. Of course, one is increase employee satisfaction. The other is continue to invest in employee development. And then our third is enhance HCS and the applicant's employer of choice. Here's just a snapshot of profile. You've seen this many times, so I'll move on. But sit here just for a second. You can see we have 4 metrics kind of leading our work and as we're trying to strive to our target of 2030. The next slide is how we're doing. You can see that we're trending in the right direction. The one that I really want us to focus on is the second metric or the second target where it says percentage of all posted positions filled by the first day of school. Our target, of course, was 93.6% for this school year. We opened the school at 96%. Again, that's all of our positions posted and filled. The one thing I want to highlight just a testament to all of our hiring managers, our principals, and our HR department. When you think about teacher positions, the first day of school, we were at 99.4%. So it's important for us, first day of school, all of our kids have a certified teacher in front of them. So 96% when you think about all the positions, but 99.4 when you think about the classroom themselves. We'll have to look at the percentage of effective employees retained. We're at 86.8%. Of course, our target by Opportunity 2030 is at 93%. Some of our specific initiatives this year, we're a continuation of our Gallup survey. We just closed the survey a couple weeks ago. We're now just starting, I'm going to highlight this just a second, highlighting a little bit more of the data that's coming in. We're working with our consultant. That's been very successful. Want to highlight our Grow Your Own expansion. You know, we are currently supporting 75 educators through our Grow Your Own. Many of you should know that that's some of our classified staff members that's becoming teachers, and so we have different pathways for them to become certified teachers. The last one there I want to highlight, this is our first year, is Pathways of Teaching, our EPP program, this Educators Preparation Program. It allows us to award licensures to our CTE employees. This past year, or this year currently, we have 10 individuals that they're in the CTE classrooms. We're working with them to achieve their licensure. They're already experts in their content, and so we're able to help them achieve their license in the program. It's an 18-month program. We're super excited. It's going well. We plan to enroll 10 to 15 more this upcoming school year. Our team is always continuing to figure out how we can continue to work. When you think about that SAP, those are different specialized areas. I don't have the data, but we're looking into what would it look like for our EPP to be able to provide licensure to in areas mathematics, pre-K, and so we'll continue to see what it looks like to expand. But right now, CTE, our occupational license, is going well. Just want to highlight Gallup survey. I don't have a whole lot of information for year 2, but I wanted to just kind of a shout out just to our district. Last year we was at 40% when you think about engage. And the reason we're using Gallup is because of engagement and employee satisfaction, but 45% engaged this year, so we're up 5%. That's incredible. The one over to the right where it says there are 5 engaged employees for each disengaged employee, we are up by last year was 3.99. We're up now 5. So a 5-to-1 ratio is great. So you think about walking down a hallway, we have 5 employees that's satisfied, that's engaged to 1. The benchmark, when I asked Gallup, is a 4-to-1, and so we're exceeding that already. We'll have more data to share with you in the coming weeks. Well, that's just a highlight of every employee valued. Of course, in June, we'll talk to you about every school equipped and every community served. I know that was quick, but any questions?
I'd like to make a comment. So, going back as we go into budget season, we don't want to cut teachers. Somebody mentioned, you know, that there needs to be cut at central office. Central office has already made an effort to help by, their plan is to cut 20 positions at central office. When you figure the number of people at central office and the number of teachers, the percentage being cut at central office is much greater than the percentage if we were to lose teachers. We don't want to lose teachers. We just want you to know that. But central office understands that there's positions there that, and I'm bringing this up now because some of those positions are in HR that helped to get to that 99.4% of teachers in front of students on day one. 2 years ago, at one of my schools, we were missing 15 teachers on day one, and we only had 10 subs.
That means 5 classrooms of kids were spread out among other classes. So, thank you.
Yeah. Mr. King, if I could say one more thing, I appreciate that. Just, I'm always recruiting. So just so it's been out there for cuts, I actually need 7 more special ed teachers. So I'm not losing. We're not trying to get rid of any special ed teachers. I'm recruiting 7 more right now. So I don't see a day that I'm ever going to ask a special ed teacher to leave. So I just want to make sure that our teachers hear me loud and clear that we need them. There's a place for them. There's a home. And anyone else that's listening, come to Hamilton County Schools to work. So we need 7 more special ed teachers for next year.
Thank you. Lisa, I'm sorry, I almost missed you there.
Oh, that's okay. So 7 new exceptional education teachers next year, but we're losing 4 as far as the live stream the other day.
Yeah,
for next
yes,
year.
ma'am. It's I would just say it this way: when you think about the staffing model, and that's a whole other piece. But through attrition, right? We have people that they're leaving through resignations, they're moving out of the district, and so there's always vacancy. So that number is always moving. So today I'm saying 7. Tomorrow it might be 5 because I've hired 2, I've lost, so that number is always moving. So I guess at the end of the day, I look at our actual personnel. And so right now, when I left my office, I need 7 new teachers, right? And so, the 4 might have been just snapshot or a program, but across the district, when you think about specifically special ed, overall, there's no cut. And so I know that's, Dr. Robertson might give me for complicating things here, but we want to make sure that we have a teacher in all of our classrooms, okay?
Okay, another concern is exceptional ed assistants, and I know they're a different animal because they're classified and not licensed where they could just transfer, because of all the restructuring that we're doing. And I understand, on the staffing model, we're not losing assistants, but I know that quite a few have been informed that they don't have a job next year.
Yes,
And
sir.
so I'm wondering about those, if we're not losing any teachers, what's happening to those positions and those employees who have been there for many years, and now they feel like they don't have a job next year.
A good question. What I would say when they say losing jobs, I think actually is they're not going to be at the same school. So there's some ed assistants that they're going to have to transfer to another school. But I'm confident throughout the year that if you want to work in Hamilton County Schools as an ed assistant or an exceptional ed assistant, then we're going to have a place for you. So for example, Ms. Haddon, what happens is in a school staffing model, strategic funds, our principals are always, they get to decide what they need for their school. So there are some schools that they work with their teams and they've decided they need 2 additional ed assistants to be at their school for next school year. And so if I'm an ed assistant at school A, I've been told that my position is ending. Well, there's opportunity across the district and we're going to recruit and retain. So I really can't change the fact that they might have to change locations, but I'm confident that we're going to have a home for them. We need them because, quite frankly, when you think about that portrait of a graduate, it takes our teachers, our ed assistants, all working together to ensure the success of our kids, okay?
And the other concern I do have is, with all the relocations of teachers maybe, that's really disappointing. I'm not going to say wrong, right, whatever, but overall very disappointing to some who have served, in their schools for years. They bought homes in their districts and their zones. They really like where they're teaching, and there might not be a place nearby where they feel like they have the same job satisfaction. So can you tell me what the process is for these teachers who will be relocated? Will they be do they have to go through the transfer process and apply for the open positions, or what?
Yeah, it would be hard for me to explain the extensive process that we go through when we have to transfer a teacher, but I will want to start here. Every year, teachers are transferring, right? We allow, as our district, as an employer of choice, we want to make sure our teachers have choice of where they want to work year to year. And so every year, all of our employees have the opportunity to transfer from one school to another. That deadline is April the 15th for our certified staff. The deadline for our classified staff is May 31st. I say that is that the chairs change. When I say chairs, the positions. So for example, if school A, for whatever reason, is losing, let's say 30 students, well, eventually there's going to be a time that they're going to lose a position, right? And so that position is going to be transferred somewhere else. Because oftentimes we don't lose the kids in the district, they just transfer to another school. And so, of course, teachers follow kids. I will say that if you're in a full-time employee, right, our board policy states that unless we're losing across the board, we're going to do all we can to make sure that they stay employed. And so HR, we walk alongside the teachers to help them, one, figure out what's their best place. And so we're always looking to keep them in the same learning community. So they have a lot of choice, but we're slow because we want to make sure it's their choice and it's a good fit. But I'm confident that before the end of the school year, we're going to have them placed. And it's going to be one, it's going to be a great thing. They're going to be ready. They're going to be excited about the school. And we'll do the same thing for our our classified staff members. But again, it's always year to year for our classified staff. It depends on what the school needs, is that how many people we have in the building, right? But I will say, it's always moving. If you're a full-time employee, it's hard to believe that you're going to lose a job. There is a process. Teachers don't need to worry. We're always working. Go back to what Mr. Gary said there, that's why we have a HR staff, so we can work with our valued employees. I know it's difficult, but really it's it's hard, but I feel confident we're going to be able to take care of our employees.
And I'll just say one more thing, since, we have a lot of people in here who are concerned today, that I am advocating for some seniority to be considered in the process of transferring, and with some restrictions, because I know all the schools need their coaches, and we want to keep, consider that they're in good standing as well.
Yes, ma'am. We do have a process, and we follow board policy when it comes to transfers. I will state for the board that we invest a lot heavily in our new teachers, and so that's why we're able to, right now I was looking at our numbers, we're well over 97% of retention for our first-year teachers. And so our first-year teachers is such, we invest so much. They always receive a mentor, a support mentor. So if I need to transfer a teacher from a school, the last person I want to move is a new teacher. And so what happens when we start talking about seniority is like we invest in new teachers. So there's a protocol we follow. The principals talk with their learning community superintendents. They work with HR, and we go through a criteria. So it's hard for me to say that it's going to be, we're going to safeguard our seniority. But oftentimes what I would say about a teacher that's been for a minute, they're heavily invested in the school, right? Meaning they're probably doing a lot of things. They're a department chair, they're a team leader, they might be a coach. And so I say that I don't see them being the first one because they've got so many hats they're carrying at the school. You understand what I'm saying? And that's not to say anything about the other teachers. It's just they've been there a while, right? So they're so important in that school. And so it's not an exact science, but I will say that they're not the first, right? And that's going to be able to move from that school. But I do want the board to know that, we invest heavily in our first, second, third-year teachers. And so I'm always mindful of hiring a new teacher, we recruit into the system, and then the next year I move them when they are now no longer with their colleagues, right? So we got to safeguard that. So, but I hear you, and I understand that we want to value our teachers as being with us for a while, so. I wanted to say one more thing, sir. Since I've got the mic, I'm going to go ahead and use it. We're thinking about assistants. This, I gave you the numbers that was 99.4% teachers filled. I have to go back and look, but I believe beginning the school year, this year for 24-25, we still had about 15 to 20 ed assistant jobs that I needed to fill. I say that, and so even when ed assistants feeling like they're not having a job, I had vacancies day one of school in that category. And I don't want to have any vacancies. I say that to you that even with those vacancies and even with the shifts, I go back to saying I think there's going to be a job for our ed assistants. Okay, I just wanted you to hear me say that there was chairs available that we had to continue to recruit well into August and September to fill those spots.
Okay. Thank you. Steve Slater?
Thanks, Joe. Dr. Brown, just to make sure, we're not cutting any ex-ed assistants.
there's shifts. Some schools are losing positions at their school.
Okay, so we're going to send somebody from Ottawa up to North Hamilton? That's a pretty good hour and 10-minute drive without traffic.
So, Dr. Brown said earlier, we're going to work with every employee, and the number one goal is to keep them within their learning community. I want to be clear, this is not new, meaning we go through shifts every single year, and on the 20th day, we will have to go to some teachers, and they will have to move schools. So regardless of the staffing model, this one, previous one, the one 10 years ago, the one when I came here in 2008, shifts always happen. Our goal is to work with employees to make sure that we find, if they are having to move, to make sure that they find the spot that fits them best. I also want to be clear about this. Even with the reduction of 4 special ed teachers in this new staffing model, we are serving kids by their hours, which is a better practice than serving kids just by numbers. At the beginning of this year, we had 8 exceptional ed teacher openings that we could not fill. Some of them we had to split and turn into assistants. With the 28 exceptional ed assistants, that reduction, we fully expect every single employee that we have today that is in an ex-ed assistant position to have a position in this district. And we will work our best so that someone doesn't have to go from Ottawa High School to Soddy Daisy High School.
To be clear, if they want to, they can, right?
If they want to go from Ottawa to Soddy, we'll let them. Yes.
I was just trying to make sure I understood that, because I know that in all of our schools, we have staff that may live across the county or even in others across the line. I hate to say that. So I was just wanted to make sure that if they wanted to, like if they said, I think I'd be a better fit in North Hamilton, and even though I live in Ottawa, I can do that.
The first option,
if that was where we were
first
going.
option of any reduction is to ask for a volunteer.
Okay.
That's the very first step. And oftentimes you get that. You have someone that maybe it's because of living conditions, maybe because they want to be in a high school instead of a middle school, or an elementary instead of a middle school. You oftentimes have this work out without even having to have a conversation of where do we have to move someone because someone volunteers to go to another position.
Okay, Mr. Daugherty?
Dr. Robertson, one question on your point that Mr. Slater posed. Just use the word shift. If we shift these teachers, what about the kids that are still in these classrooms?
So, again, to be clear, and if you look at the one pager that we gave you, it's a very clear explanation of the change of this staffing model. In the past 2 years,
Excuse me for interrupting. Can we put this up here? So, do we have it? We don't have it?
I don't think we have it
Okay.
on. This is a document that we're going to make public. We're presenting it to you tonight, and then we'll make sure it's on the website and make sure that we send it out through other communications. So the change in this, and again, I want to go back, and I mean, I know that there are discussions about this. The past 2 years, we have been staffing simply on head count, nothing else. As you've heard from the speakers earlier, what we know about students with disabilities, they're on a wide spectrum. Some that require very little accommodations, some that require significant accommodations. What we have found in this current staffing model is that we have created a system that is not best serving kids. What we are moving to is a service hours based model, meaning we are staffing schools based on the hours and the needs of their students. We are also adding programs, 70 programs across this county. And as the document makes clear, and I'm going to say this right up front, we are not going back to a system like we had years ago where we will be telling families they have to go to another school. This is an IEP team decision that the family will be part of, right? And so when you ask about what happens to the kids that are in the building, the kids in the building are getting served based on their service hours, and we're going to serve them well. I had someone earlier ask me, and questions from this board, well, how do we know this model is going to do better? I can't fully answer that, but what I do know is that we are using our resources much more efficiently and effectively to serve our kids. We had gaps under the previous model where there wasn't even a pathway from kindergarten to 12th to get the same kind of services. We are going to work diligently with families, the less than 3% that are actually affected by this, to ensure that they have options and that we are serving kids well. The other thing that we're leaving out in this conversation about ex-ed assistance is the assistants that are written into the IEP are not captured in the program model nor in the base model, right? So if a student has written in their IEP that they have an assistant, a one-on-one assistant, that is not captured in what you see. That will still stay the same way that it is.
Okay. Okay, no more lights? No, okay. Ms. Schaefer, go ahead.
I've made this known and I want to say it again. I have great legal concerns for making this shift. I fear that we won't get to see if there is any benefit before we have to face a legal challenge. And as a business decision, that's too risky for this board member.
Mr. Bennett, can you clarify can we quantify the legal liability change that we have from our current model to this next model? Can you quantify what liability we have under either model? Or if there's a greater chance under either model of?
Well, because the IDE, as you pointed out, everything is a team decision. In order to, it would require me to speculate, to say definitively, to quantify what our exposure would be from moving from one model to another. I mean, obviously, do we have, as you pointed out, there are gaps in the current model. That's something that I think the board should be concerned about. The fact that the administration has identified that there are evidently students who are being underserved. That is something that having been identified, legitimately needs to be addressed. There's no question about that. The next question, of course, is when you are talking about reducing total services, what does that balance against? That's where, again, it's a business decision. It's also an administrative decision because you're looking and trying to stack the risks of one decision with the benefits of the countervailing decision. The short answer is I can't quantify the legal risks associated with any particular decision because on a child-by-child basis, every decision is going to be made by the team. Simply put.
Mr. Connor?
Thank you, Chair. Is it? Yeah, sorry. Didn't sound like it was on. So we're talking obviously in budget things here. What is the difference in dollars that we are discussing? Like what are we?
I don't have it off the top of my head that we could get to it. I mean, from a, you know, and again, I want to be clear that the model is the model. It's based on kids. So we're having the same conversation in Gen Ed that we're having in Ex-Ed staffing, is that the number of kids in the base model generates the staff. The number of hours in service hours for Ex-Ed generates the number of teachers, right? So I obviously there are budget considerations of every decision that we make, but this didn't start out from there. It starts out from what are the service hours, what does the model produce in teachers, and we go from there.
So I guess to restate it, what's the gap? What's the difference that we're looking at in cost to where we are, what we're
Oh, a total
doing?
budget?
Either, both.
Yeah, I mean, I've speculated and it's speculative, but it's give or take anywhere from 19 to $24 million.
I definitely have more questions, but not at this time.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just say, from my perspective, it's hard to see that by changing hours or models. For one, if you want to do that, I feel like you could do that within a school. But I was actually in the exceptional education department at Ooltewah High for 5 years, and I was very, very proud of our department, our leadership, the things that we offered, and I can't see that a program that's working mostly very well, dedicated employees over many years, wonderful people, parents who are so satisfied, kids who are doing well and are successful, I cannot see how it's really going to help them, service hours or caseload numbers, for them to be, so many to be uprooted and rezoned because of some cuts. And I know there are cuts because there are a lot of teachers who are cut and staff, assistants. And I just cannot see if it's running well now. And there are testimony after testimony of people who are satisfied with that program there. It just does not feel right to me. I'm just giving you my personal testimony.
Mr. Daugherty?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Last question. Mr. Connor, to answer one of your questions, you're talking about 28 assistants. It's around $756,000 in annual salary. That's not including benefits. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a request to add ex-ed staffing to board matters on our official meeting here later this evening.
It is.
I don't believe it is.
Maybe it's just on the 4:30 maybe.
When we look at the, Mr. Daugherty, when we approve our agenda a little later on for our regular meeting, we can add that on. Absolutely.
Okay, I was wrong. Sorry.
We can add that on, absolutely. Okay.
I just,
Go ahead.
again, not to extend this, but they just gave me the number. The number is not, it's $1.6 million for 28 assistants.
Total salary with
Yeah.
benefits.
And that includes the 4 teachers.
Okay. All right, takes us down to budget review, but I believe that, Dr. Robertson, you've met with each one of us individually to cover what you want to cover there? Or?
Yes, sir. The only thing I would point out, there are some additional revenue sources projections, but we can push that to the next finance committee. If there's anything in there that you see that, Mary Ellen's always available. I'm always available to answer any questions.
Okay.
But for time's sake, probably we could do this another time.
Okay. Ms. Jones?
So I don't have a question. I have more so it's more of a statement. And I want to first say to everyone in this room who is not in this room, is probably watching, or who has called, texted, emailed, stopped me in my tracks somewhere, or any of us, because I'm pretty sure we've all had that same experience over the past few days. I want to say to all of you that we hear you, we are listening. We all have children that we love in some capacity, be it biological, grandchild, niece, nephew, church, somebody that we love that is in Hamilton County Schools, including our staff too, in our administrative staff. But I want to say this because I have seen a lot of budget seasons, and 10 to be exact. I'm in my 10th budget season. And what always frustrates me is that we sit here on a dais, oftentimes a part of the concert choir of the people that come and speak to us. And I've been on some boards where we've been bold enough to ask for more money, and I've been on some boards where we have tried to be friendly with the county commission and present a balanced budget, and then still be asked from the county commission to decrease our request of a balanced budget. That still puzzles me. Math don't math. But I will say this. every concern that anyone has, be it a coach, assessment increase, ex-ed, services, buildings, books, balls, buses, food, the list goes on and on. It costs to provide those things to our children. It costs. And the same amount of money that my parents raised me on as an 80s baby, because I was born in 81. I graduated in 99. It's not the same amount of money it's costing me to raise my 5-year-old son in 2025. It is not the same amount of money that city schools, when I was a city school student, had in their budget, county schools had, nor is it what we've had over the past 10 years or to date. Inflation is real, things cost, needs are higher, they're greater, all of the above. And I do think as a taxpayer, I'm speaking as a taxpayer, and a parent, and I pay city and county taxes, that we have to we the people, have to use our voices to let our county commissioners know that while they will sit on their dais and say, we don't want a tax increase, and we don't, but we want what's best for children, and we know what that looks like. And so sometimes that does cause for an increase, but it doesn't always cause for a property tax increase. There are other ways, and cities and counties across America are doing this to bring other revenue streams. There are wheel taxes. You can, just like they held the millage before, you can give us millage. There are all kinds of ways you can find other money. And I think it's very important, and I'm saying this because I am very frustrated with hearing that people don't want a property tax, and I don't think anyone has ever asked me if I'm willing to pay an increase. And I pay city and county property taxes. But because I have children that I love, my own and others, y'all's included, I'm willing to do that because I want them to have what they want to have. So I'm saying that because I am going to reach out to the county commission, and I think they should bring it to a vote. I think it should be a referendum. Ask us how we want to pay for our kids' education. Don't think that you know, because if you think that you know, all that does is scapegoat it to the board, in which we don't have no, y'all, I promise you, the turnip's so dry, there's no more money. We don't have it. We can cut, central office could go home tomorrow, y'all gonna be mad because somebody not gonna be here to answer your question. We could send them out, we could tell them today, all y'all go home, we cutting you. And somebody gonna call all of us tomorrow or by midnight and say, I tried to call and do something, nobody ever called me back. Well, ma'am, we cut them. So I'm saying, although that sounds great because the days of the world tell you the central office is top heavy or this is this and this is this, just like you want to get paid in your job and I want to get paid in my job, these people want to get paid in their jobs, be it an ex-ed assistant, a cafeteria manager, a teacher, and you want to get paid in your role for your skills and abilities. And so I just really encourage you, if this resonates with anyone, to go to the people that are making the decisions about our money or can have those conversations, because we know right now with all that's going on federally, if that changes, it's coming down, and who's going to have to make them decisions? Because we don't hold our own purse strings. So we have to start talking to the people who think they know what we want, because clearly they don't know because they not having to listen to this. Nobody is in here from county but Tucker. And I hate to call you out, but nobody else that holds a purse, and Tucker don't even hold a purse string. But the only person that comes to these meetings consistently is Tucker McClendon. And I ain't even trying to pat him on his back, that's just the truth. Tucker know I love him though. But my point is, the people that make those decisions don't come and sit and hear you. And they hold their meetings at 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning when you at work. And me too. So I'm gonna have to take off today because I'm gonna go and ask. But I want to empower us to use our voices, and we vote people in just like y'all vote us in, and y'all right now don't feel like we speaking for y'all. I don't feel like they're speaking for us and advocating for us. Because I'm telling y'all, we had it, we give it to you. We give them everything they ask to make sure your kids have the most exceptional utopia experience. But we don't have it. And I'm just being honest. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Just a second, Mr. Connor. Miss Jackie's been waiting here a while, waving at me.
That's part of why I clicked in. I want to make sure we saw her.
So, Miss Jackie, can you hear us? You're gonna have to unmute yourself, I think. You're still on mute. Can you guys
I don't think she's muted.
She's not muted now.
It would say it right here if she was.
Yeah, she's not muted. It's not, it doesn't have an X right there.
She can hide it.
She can text, if she wanna text it.
Put it in the chat.
Jackie, we can't hear you.
Tell her to call, if she calls, I can let her.
Keep trying. Let me go to Mr. Connor, and we'll come back.
Jackie said she's gonna call. Okay, I mean, I can put it up to the back.
I'll hold tight just in case she calls right now.
Nothing.
So please, Mr. Chair.
Yes, technology's great when it works. Go ahead, Mr. Connor.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so I know we won't have this, but here's what I want for the next meeting. I want a number that shows how we can be the leader in exceptional ed. I want to know what it costs for us to be the leader and not just the status quo, not just the throwaway, not just the this is good enough for our kids. I want to know what it costs and where we can find the money to get to where we can lead this charge.
Mr. Connor, this previous board that you sat on invested more in special ed than any board in the history of Hamilton County Schools. We are not going backwards. We are a leader in special ed. I'm trying hard to stand here because this administration and the previous board has done more for exceptional ed in Hamilton County than any other administration or board in the history of the school system. And we want to talk about where we were. Mr. Keene, you know the history of this. I've been in this district when there were teachers that had caseloads of 35. 35. So we are a leader. in
Speech
Excel.
therapists that had 90.
So I hear you. How do we make them believe that we're the best? Because it seems like right now everybody that has kids. I'm sorry. Let me real quick, and I will listen to you. But right now, and my email chain, the people in this room don't agree with you. So what do we do? What do we do if we really are a leader? Show me. How do we show our community? Because at the end of the day, we're only as good as what we showcase.
Let's look at learning outcomes over the last 3 years, right? So we'll provide that, and we'll look at the improvements that we've made in outcomes for students with disabilities. Let's look at the number of kids through things like Project Search that we've helped transition when we had 0 transition services as early as 5 years or 10 years ago. That how many kids that we have that are 22 now, instead of going home and sitting, are actually working at places like Blue Cross and places like Erlanger. Those are the outcomes that I can show you. I understand that it sounds like when you say that we are taking 4 teachers away and 28 assistants, that is moving back. We are strategically using the resources that we have that are created in this staffing model to best serve kids. Everyone in here knows, and I agree with the speaker earlier, all of us know somebody that has a disability. Most of us have someone in our family. Like, it is the most difficult proposition that we have in front of us, in my opinion, as a public school system. But if you want to talk about funding, and I'm glad that Ms. Jones went in here, let's go all the way back to the beginning of IDEA and ask the federal government how fully funded that program has ever been. So if we want to talk about leading, let's lead from a national standpoint and actually fund a bill that we created to serve these students.
That part of it, I will absolutely say thank you, because that's something that I did when I went to DC, was to talk about IDEA being funded at 40% of 40%. So there is definitely something there, but I will restate, we need to figure out and showcase, if we're a leader, let's showcase it, and let's show how we are. Because, again, we're only as good as what the community sees us. That's the problem with being a public entity. So let's show them. If we can do it, let's show them.
Okay, we still can't get to Jackie? Yeah, okay. Okay, Mr. King?
Okay, can you hear me
There
now?
we go. Go ahead. Go ahead, Miss Jackie. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, y'all. I have my phone and the computer. I'm trying to figure out what happens. I guess my question was, I know we received a lot of emails about special ed, and I've heard the presentation, most of it, I think, where there were not going to be any cuts, but possibly people were moving. I want to make sure I heard it clear that now the issue is that those people that may have to possibly move, we have to worry about how far they have to drive to get to work, but they still would have a job.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Anything else?
So that's the biggest concern now, how far poor people will have to drive versus making sure that all the special ed services are going to be kept for the children.
I think I misunderstood what you said at the beginning. No, we're talking about both.
I'm sorry.
I think we're having a conversation about both things that you said, how to best serve students, and then there were also concerns about how we would work with teachers that may have to shift to other locations.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you, Miss Jackie. So, Mr. King?
So I'm going to add to what Ms. Jones said, and I know Mary Ellen will maybe later on bring this up, but one thing you all can do while we've got a large body here, we had 31,000 new homes built in Hamilton County. 31,000. The process for us receiving money from the county is we get right now 2.23% of property taxes. We also get sales tax. This year, inflation, as Ms. Jones said, hit that area, and we actually are getting less sales tax this year than we did last year. We were hoping to get a greater amount of property tax. This is an appraisal year. So what is expected now is that the property assessor, our millage rate, which is what they pay us at, 2.23,
It's never changed in
that's
about 10 years.
never changed, is going to be asked to be lowered to 1.5% so that we will not get growth in the 31,000 homes that have been built in Hamilton County. So if you want to help us, contact your commissioners and tell them no, don't vote to lower the millage rate, please.
Thank you, Mr. King. Ms. Schaefer?
I have some overall budget questions, Ms. Mary Ellen. I've been looking at it from the fiscal year 2025 and some percentages, and kind of what I'm looking at is the percentage of student-facing funds versus non-student-facing funds. And I have a little worksheet that I'll provide to you, but so you may not be able to be specific tonight. Kind of what I'm seeing is more of like 80% of our budget last year, 2025, was student-facing, and 20% was not student-facing. And some of those line items was like the student outcomes, TISA student outcomes, none of that money went to the schools. So I'm going to need some explanation of the student-facing funds versus non-student-facing, and why only 80% of that is student-facing.
Well, and just an example I can think off the top of my head is transportation, like doesn't show at a school level, but that is, serving students to get them to school. So I think it just looked, but we can go through, I think in a finance committee, we can, dig into some of those. If you send me those questions, I can make sure we can address those.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we've got several items here that we're not going to be able to get to. What we'll do is add those on at the end of our agenda under board matters at our regular session. But I know we're gonna recognize our teachers of the year, so we're gonna have to adjourn, this part of our work session, and then it'll take us about 15 minutes to do what we're gonna do with these teachers of the year, and then we'll be back, hopefully for a on-time, start for our regular monthly meeting. So work session stands adjourned.
I hope people heard it, because we got thousands of emails about that too.